Hey everybody, welcome back to Bad Blind Moms. We are two moms doing our best and probably getting it wrong. I'm Bridgit Kenning-Pulpeter.
And I'm Stacy Cervenka. And Bridgit and I are both moms who happen to be blind. We both have husbands who are also blind, and we both happen to have two young children who are sighted. And today with us, we have a badass blind mom, Priscilla Yeung from Sacramento, California. And Priscilla is an orientation and mobility instructor, and she's also the manager of the Senior Impact Project at the Society for the Blind. And most importantly, she is a wife and mother of two children. And making Bad Blind Moms history, we actually have our first good blind dad. And that is Greg DeWall, also from Lincoln, Nebraska. He happens to be my husband. And Greg is the supervisor of the Nebraska Center for the Blind, which is the state-run rehabilitation center affiliated with the Nebraska Commission for the Blind and Visually Impaired. I don't know about you all, but my kids just got out of school yesterday. It was their last day of school. Today was their first day of summer break. And we're approaching Memorial Day when most kids in the country are, beginning their summer vacations. And we thought we'd talk a little bit about how blind parents and their families take vacations, whether that's, to an in-town staycation or a trip to a local campground or a trip to Disney World or Great Wolf Lodge or a cruise or, backpacking around Europe. So we invited Priscilla and Greg specifically because not only are they well-traveled and not only have they traveled quite a bit with their kids, but they are both O&M instructors. And so they've worked with a wide variety of clients. And so they are very aware of not only the techniques that they use, but also techniques used by blind people who travel in different ways. So thank you guys for being here.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you guys so much. So Greg and
history.
Yes, exactly, making history. So Greg and Priscilla, what types of travel have you done?
Priscilla?
Okay. Well, my kids love Disneyland, and now that things are opening up, we just booked a trip, so we're heading to Disneyland next month. So Seattle recently as well. We brought them to Taiwan and Hong Kong, so they have gotten out of the country, and the East Coast as well.
Cool. Yeah, Leo and Josephine have not had an opportunity to travel internationally yet, but I do know that that's in the future plans. Leo growing up and loving riding on the train, we were always looking for ways to take him on a train. And so going to Great Wolf Lodge, going down to Southern California, going to Sacramento or the Bay Area with Leo, just because he loved trains and it was a simple way to get out. I think his first few years, heck, he was on a plane 3 or 4 times a year, going to Chicago to visit family, going to conventions with me, and while we'd be there, go to Disney World, things like that. So Leo's had all kinds of opportunities. Josephine has got to go to Great Wolf Lodge, places like that. And we're looking forward to her having more opportunities.
Yes. In fact, Bridget's family and mine, we're looking forward to a trip to Mahoney State Park here in Nebraska in a little over a month, where each of our families has rented a cabin. And so we're super looking forward to that. So.
Yes, my idea of camping is a cabin with air conditioning and modern appliances. Yes.
So question I have is how do you guys begin planning for travel and planning for your vacations?
I believe a lot in just doing your homework. There's a lot of things to take into consideration beyond just cost or the financial situation of a vacation. So, doing your homework, figuring out what's convenient. Do the airports have shuttles or does the hotel have shuttles to and from the airport? Where's the airport located in relation to your destination? Where's the hotel related in relation to your destination? So doing that kind of homework, just finding out all your transportation options, I think that eases so much stress when you go into it planning to be convenient and well prepared with transportation.
I would agree with Greg as well. And finding a hotel that's in a centralized location was big for me, where I can walk to a lot of the destinations that we wanted to go to. And I didn't have to spend necessarily a lot of time on public transportation or a lot of money on Uber. And I could do a lot with the area that I'm at. So for example, if I have a hotel, I would like the hotel to have a swimming pool, a hot tub for us, maybe a beach nearby. So a lot of the things that we want to do is within walking distance, a lot of great restaurants around us as well.
Now, one thing I know we're considering just in regards to that is, as soon as Josephine's old enough, taking the kids to an all-inclusive resort.
Yeah.
Just because it kind of puts it all in one location. And that's the same idea with Great Wolf Lodge. It's all under one roof. It's right there. We have the liberty to go out if we want, but it's all right there.
Yeah. And we were on a cruise, before the pandemic. And that was the first time I went on a cruise, and it was amazing for a family with, parents who don't drive or don't like to drive or can't drive. And so having everything all inclusive is key.
And that's absolutely, I would say if you are a blind parent who's just beginning to think about planning a vacation and you don't know where to start, I think first I would look at the differences between cruises and all-inclusive resorts. If that's the type of trip you're thinking of taking, because some people really are cruise people and some people really are all-inclusive resort people. And I feel like Greg and I are pretty much all-inclusive resort people because, being on a cruise, it's ironic, but being on a cruise, to me, you don't feel like you're getting as much time on the sand and in the water. Even though you're in the middle of this giant ocean, you don't have a lot of access to the water on a day-to-day basis other than, the small, relatively shallow pools in the boat. So you might dock somewhere, port somewhere and have, 6 or 8 hours at a beach destination. But when you're at an all-inclusive resort, you can be out on the beach at sunrise and you can be out on the beach and take a walk in the moonlight. You can spend as much time on that beach as you want. You don't have to worry about going back to the ship. And to me, it's the thing that's nice about a cruise, of course, is that you unpack and pack once in your room and you go to all these different destinations. Greg and I, we did like an 11-night cruise for our honeymoon, and it was so cool because we got to see 6 different places and we never had to leave one, we only had to set up in one room. But I would say I like all-inclusive resorts because I feel like I get to know one area better and I don't feel like I'm in so much of a hurry. And so what I would say is if look up the differences, even Google cruises versus all-inclusive resorts.
Yeah. And
figure out what makes most sense for your family. And if you decide it's cruises, then go on cruisecritic.com. And that's CRUISECRITIC.com and learn all about the different cruises that are available, because cruise ships are not the same. Cruise lines are not the same. They come in many different categories. Some lines like Carnival, really, they're less expensive and they tailor very much to families and spring breakers. Then you have like Celebrity, which Greg and I did, which is a little more upmarket and it's more of like a honeymooner, slightly better food and service. So you really want to make sure that you know what you're getting and you're getting the kind of atmosphere that you want. Do you want quiet and relaxing, or do you want basically a water park at sea? I also tell people, if you want to do an all-inclusive resort, the way that you do it, go to applevacations.com. No, they are not sponsoring this show, but seriously, go to applevacations.com.
Neither is Cruise Critic.
Neither is Cruise Critic. And nobody is sponsoring this show. But if anybody wants to sponsor this show, money,
please give us a call.
Please. So I would say go to go to applevacations.com. You can Google it. Put in your dates, your times, like places that you're interested in, and it will give you options. And then when you find, it'll give you a list of hotels, like all-inclusive resorts that are options. Then go to oyster.com and look at the reviews of that hotel, because Oysters will give you a really nice, succinct summary that's got pros, cons, and then like a little paragraph that puts it all together. So for example, I go to applevacations.com. Let's say I decide I want to go to Playa del Carmen, Mexico. I plug in my dates on Apple Vacations. It'll give me a list of hotels, and the ones that are in my price range or that I'm interested in, I go to Oyster and I look up their reviews. If there's like 2 or 3 that I'm interested in and it's a tie, I go over to TripAdvisor on the message boards, and I might put like Secrets Maroma versus Dreams Tulum, and let people know like, hey, I'm going on a trip with my husband. I really want it to be romantic, and I care most about food and service, or I care most about having a lovely beach that's swimmable. What would you recommend? Or whatever the situation is for you. So my order of operation is always Apple Vacations, Oyster, and then TripAdvisor to continue narrowing it down.
Yeah, wow, and I also... Yeah, I was just
going to say, true Stacy method.
Yes. I'm all about research for most things. So, and I think certainly a trip with the fam is definitely worth doing your research on. And, sort of going back to what Greg was saying about kind of knowing the area you're going to be in and what's going to be around. And, we had to cancel a couple of trips that we had planned this year, obviously, unfortunately. But so we're planning some big trips for next year, and we asked the kids, do you want to do Chicago or do you want to go to the beach? And they're like, we want to go to Chicago. I'm like, all right. But so we, we're just like, by the way, we were going to go to Chicago last year and had to postpone that. So, but anyway, but still, like, we're just doing our research. And like you said, Priscilla, a lot of what we want to do is going to be near the downtown area. So we're looking at places to stay there. And, just doing whatever research I can, Googling and talking to people I know from Chicago. And so I think that it's really worth the investment of time to do that, because I think the more you know about the destination you're going to, the more comfortable you're going to be. And the somewhat less, traveling's stressful, but the less stressful it's going to be if you kind of know what's going on and what's going to be there.
Mm-hmm. Can I put up cruising really quickly?
Yes.
So one thing I really enjoyed about cruises was we went on the Princess Cruise, and everybody on board got a medallion that they got to wear, and it kind of tracked on an app that you could download where that person in your party is at all times. It was very useful for me to track my children exactly where they were at, what they were doing. At that time when they were cruising, they were 9 and 11. And so I felt like they were old enough to kind of do some things on their own. So they enjoyed having that freedom. So I was able to monitor where they were at. They had to meet me at a certain location. And then, I could also check them into the kids club, which was great.
Super
it was
cool.
Like, and then I got to do other things that I wanted to do. So it gave a little freedom for everybody.
They should have that anywhere you travel with kids. That would be nice. So Greg and Priscilla, what are some tips you guys have for traveling in an airport?
Well, when knowing I'm going to an airport, especially an airport that I'm a little more unfamiliar with, I like to break the airport up into 3 segments. I think of it as checkpoints. I only worry about one segment at a time, and whether I'm getting out of an Uber or a taxi or a tram going to the airport, my first goal is just to get through the check-in counter, check my badge in, get my tickets, get my seat assignment. That's my first goal. So that's all I kind of let myself worry about in that moment. Once I got my ticket, I might ask which way to security, which way to the escalator, those kind of fundamental questions for going to an airport. And again, the second segment is just getting to and through security. There's often the lines that you have to zigzag your way down, do your, check your ticket and your ID before you get through security. Go put your stuff into the container, go, put it on the belt, go to the x-ray machine. Okay, I'm done with segment 2. So now that I've broken it down into segments, I'm only worrying about...
What segment 3?
So I'm only worrying about one step at a time. Now that I'm done with 2, I'm going to segment 3. And as I'm leaving the security section, the security area, I'm asking which way to my gate, or which way to the tram to now get closer to my gate. And now my goal is to get to my gate. And that might involve asking people along the way, which way is V13? Which way to Terminal V? And as long as I continue in the direction, people say I'm going the right way, I make it to V13, I finish segment 3, I check in at the counter.
So to get in that just a little bit more detailed, so for people, you get out of your car, you say that your first thing is getting to the check-in counter. How would you describe doing that?
Well, walking in the door, I might pay attention to some foot traffic. I might ask the nearest person going through the airport. One nice thing about airports is there's always roller bags, there's always loud shoes. It's not that difficult to be able to ask someone, hey, which way is the United counter? Which way is the Southwest counter? Excuse me, can you tell me which way is the escalator? Those kind of questions. So as I walk in the door, I'm going to ask which way is the Southwest counter, and I'm going to get directions over there. And what we refer to as sound cues in the O&M field, you can hear people talking at the counter, checking people in, those kind of questions to help guide you towards the check-in counter.
And then once you've checked in, how do you then handle navigating to and through security?
Just follow the line. Usually by the time you get to security, when you leave the checkout counter, you're asking which way to the escalator, which way to security, you're getting pointed in the right direction. And by the time you get to security, there's usually enough of a line to maybe ask the person in front of you, confirm you're at security, and just kind of follow them along the way.
Now, Greg, at this point, airport personnel may give you the option of, kind of going through like a special line that's for people with disabilities or, who have like special privileges or use wheelchairs. That's absolutely your prerogative whether to take it. It's up to you and your comfort level, how stressed you're feeling. I always take it. I'm not going to lie. Like when they offer it to me, I always take it. I don't, how do you guys feel about that? And there's no right or wrong answer.
Yeah.
For me, I do take it because I think when we're traveling, I want to be relaxed. I want to make it on time to my gate. And I'm considering more than just my own personal travel, right? I have my family with me. And so, all in all, it could be very stressful. And so being able to have that option, it's great. And I do take it. And we call it meet and assist. And so having somebody, walk with us to get through the what do you call it? The security gate checkpoint, and then give us, some walking directions or assisting us to locate where the gate is. I find it, helpful. And I'm using my cane. I have my kids. I'm monitoring all sorts of other issues and not having to worry exactly about where to go and who to ask.
Exactly.
Yeah, and SkyCap is an organization or a company that is at all airports for that meet and assist that you're referring to, Priscilla. Mm-hmm. And, another thing that I know I like to take advantage of, we take advantage of it as a family, but when talking about that kind of assistance, is pre-boarding. Mm-hmm. I never really pre-boarded much, if at all, prior to having kids. But now having kids, utilizing that pre-boarding, it just gives you those few extra minutes to get settled, get your kids in place, get your luggage away, get the kids buckled in and sat down and entertained, before the mad rush of people start coming down.
And I'll say this. Oh, go ahead, Priscilla.
Oh, yes, we do that too. And I find that pre-boarding gives me that extra 5 minutes to airplane cabin to find out where my seat is in relation to the restroom. So if I have to take my kids there, I can do it, where the emergency exits are, and just to know my way around the plane.
And I'll say this with all of this, what I hope people understand from this is that as a blind person, you can absolutely get through an airport independently if that's what you want to do. And that's like what using the techniques, some of the techniques Greg is talking about. Blind people navigate through even the largest airports independently every day. However, if that's going to cause you so much stress and anxiety that you're going to like dread the first part of your vacation, or I mean, if this is a vacation for you and doing this through an airport is going to cause you, again, so much stress and anxiety that it's really going to be a problem, my goodness, there's tons of assistance available. Take parts of it, take all of it, take parts of it that you need, take none of it. I know for me, I actually don't prefer people walking with me because I want the freedom to like stop and go to the bathroom or stop and go into a shop or get some food or, you know, kind of meander around. I don't want to feel like I'm holding somebody up, because when I have a sky cap or a person with me, I feel like they have other people to help. Like they just want to get me to my gate, where maybe Leo, please, or whoever just did that. Okay, Leo. Oh my God. Okay. So, what I was saying is I actually don't prefer people walking with me, because I feel like I want to be on my own time and I don't want to hold them up and I don't want to be rushed to my gate if I have time. However, I do like assistance through security, meaning I don't like to stand in line. I am the high maintenance bad blind mom. So I'm just going to let it all hang out there. I don't see any big need to wait around in the security line for 30 minutes. I don't feel, you know, I don't feel like I'm making a statement about the capabilities of blind people as I stand in a line for 30 minutes. For me, when I get to security, I try to find the line that's for people with disabilities and get through it as quickly as I can. And at that point, that's just me. And many people will disagree. And that's why our show is called Bad Blind Moms.
Exactly.
And as far as,
but you know, it's like, here's my thing too. And I kind of want to stress the point that independence is like different things to different people. And so you can certainly navigate an airport independently on your own. But like, I would also say that doing it, whether you're taking sighted guide, whether somebody's assisting you, I mean, that's your way of doing it independently too. So I think it's what you're comfortable with, and you shouldn't feel guilty if you didn't do it 100%, you know, on your own. You know, we all have, you know, our comfort levels, and also, like we've been saying, all of us, you know, traveling just can be stressful in general for anybody. And so if there's something that is available to me that can ease that stress a little bit, I say take it if you're comfortable with it.
Just to share a technique that Stacy and I use for, you know, if it's a layover or something like that, or traveling with our children, you know, rather than using that assistance, because we're fairly comfortable traveling in airports. I tell people a lot that mine and Stacy's strategy with the kids is I take the kids to the gate, get comfortable, get checked in, make sure we're on time, and Stacy goes and gets lunch and brings it to us at the gate or on the airplane. So on a layover, we actually rarely board the second airplane at the same time.
No, often I'm running to the gate and they're like, your husband and kids are already on the plane, and I've got like a sack of Panera or something. And, you know, and I'll say this too, when it comes to pre-boarding, with kids, we always pre-board. I can't think of a time where with kids we didn't pre-board. When I'm on my own, I pre-board when it's Southwest, but I'm less likely to pre-board with other airlines, because Southwest, you don't have an assigned seat. So by pre-boarding, you can get the type, like I like second row. As you're going down the aisle toward the back of the plane, it's on the right. Like I want second row, window seat on the right side. Like that's my spot. It's where I want to be. So if, you know, I pre-board with Southwest, I can get that seat, and then I'm not in bulkhead, but I am very close to the front of the plane and can get off easily. But if I'm flying like United or American and I have an assigned seat, well, that's going to be my seat anyway. I mean, I don't have any real desire to sit in 36B for 15 minutes longer than I have to. You know, I mean, there's no real advantage to it, I feel. But again, it's a service that's available. Take it, don't take it.
And I do the same thing as you, Greg and Stacy. We use the meet and assist to find the gate, get settled, and then I'm off getting food, my latte, my coffee, same thing. Right. Yeah. I'm glad we're on the same thing on travel.
Okay, so now once you get to your destination, how do you find ways to get around unfamiliar cities? Let's say that you're visiting Chicago or New York or Hong Kong or wherever. What are some techniques that you use to get around if you're traveling, like if your destination is a large city?
I'll just start with the easy one for now. Uber and Lyft have oversimplified things a little bit more in the way of traveling to bigger cities, traveling to unfamiliar cities. Having the option of Uber and Lyft it's just really made things more convenient and maybe a little bit of a higher price. But if you factor that into your vacation, it does make things way more convenient. But prior to Uber and Lyft, there was a lot of that homework involved in, does the hotel you're staying at, do they have a shuttle? How far does that shuttle go? Does it go 3 miles away? Does it go 10 miles away from the hotel? Taxis were always an option. And, one nice thing about most bigger cities across the country and, around the world, talking about Hong Kong or New York or Chicago, public transportation is typically very, very good. So if you're going to a place like Washington, D.C., or something like a place like that, you could really, if you allow yourself a little bit of time to study the public transportation system, you could do a lot of things, often even quicker than you can in a taxi or an Uber or Lyft, just by taking public transportation.
Well, in many large cities, buses and subways and light rails actually go out to the airport. So you can actually take a subway from the airport to your hotel or to many different destinations within the city.
Mm-hmm. I think also having apps, travel apps, like walking directions from Google, just something simple like that makes all the difference for us now, and be able to get real-time information about how to get to the location.
Yeah, Google Maps is fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Just turn on the walking directions and let you know how far of a walk it's going to be. Yeah, that's really nice.
What did we do without Google Maps?
I don't know.
There was darkness and then there was Google Maps.
What do I do?
She used to call me. How do I get to?
I always used to say, ever since I married an O&M instructor, my travel skills have really tanked because I just call Greg and I ask him how to get places. I used to, back in the 20 years ago, I would find an address, I would call the bus company either on the phone and I would get directions, or I would do it online and I'd go, I got to go to the northwest corner of 5th and Main and I'll be dropped off at the southeast corner. So, okay, and now I'm just like, Greg, tell me, like when I get off the bus, which way do I turn?
I am Google Maps.
Just tell me how to get there.
For me,
Mm-hmm.
This is not structured discovery. This is just tell me how to get there.
Right, exactly. Yeah. I don't need a travel lesson today. I just need to know how to get to my destination. Yeah.
I think another thing we do when we travel in a big city is we choose maybe just 1 or 2 things to do and give ourselves plenty of time to get from point A to point B, so we don't miss whatever we're doing and we're relaxed. I think the point is to relax and have a good time on vacation.
That's a very, very solid point. And, part of that might mean, it might even mean, hey, we got this hotel in a strategic location. We don't even plan on getting on the bus. We can walk everywhere we're going.
Exactly. Yeah.
Bridgit?
So, Greg and Priscilla, what are some tips you guys have for navigating places like amusement parks or zoos or fairgrounds or other places that are kind of a bigger, geographic location?
Well, when my kids were little, I would actually put bells on them so I could hear where they're at. And I found that that was really helpful because at amusement parks or water parks, it's really noisy and it's hard to hear exactly sometimes where the kids are if I'm not holding their hand or if they want a little bit more freedom. Now that they're older, it's a lot easier. They have cell phones, and so I could track where they're at, yes. Right? We can talk about what are some agreements that we have as a family as to meeting locations, what you're going to do, meet me at the bottom of the water slide, things like that. So it's gotten a lot easier.
Yeah, and a lot of it is the same as what Priscilla said. We use the Bell techniques as well. I actually fashioned my own bells out of some, fishing equipment and jingle bells. And what made our bells so nice is, the shoes are going to be the loudest part. So we would clip them on to the shoes, and wherever Leo or Josephine would go, we could track. One thing I did have to learn is I would have to take the type of bells into consideration when thinking about where we were going. Some were more dull, some were a lot more piercing, and so I might take that into consideration. But holding Leo's hand a lot when he was younger, and I think we probably had to set boundaries a little bit more with Leo as he got older than we do with Josephine, but making sure we held Leo's hand all the time. If we gave him a little bit of room, let's take an amusement park or a swim park, for example, that type of thing. If we gave him a little bit of space, as long as we called his name and he responded right away, then we were okay. We knew he was 10 feet away, 8 feet, 15 feet, whatever. But if he didn't answer the first time, he quickly learned that game over, we're done playing, it's either timeout or we're going home if we're at the park, that type of thing. So, making sure those boundaries are really set and that there are consequences. And, the more they understand that, the longer leash you could give them. And I think we took the bells off of Leo sometime between 3 and 4 years old. Another thing is when you're talking about fun houses.
And real quick, if I can just say, I would say the one phrase that we use a lot with our kids is, if I call for you and you don't hear me, you're too far away.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, and one thing with our kids anyway, I'm not sure about Priscilla and Bridgit. Well, our kids have played with your kids, Bridgit, but our kids are the loudest kids at the playground or in the park. So,
mine are too.
It kind of quickly became easy. And we also had little calls, at least I did this with Leo a lot. Leo loved choo-choo trains. And so whenever we were at a park or just walking down the path or whatever, I would say, chugga, chugga. And Leo would respond with choo, choo. It didn't matter where he was at. That was kind of our call, our little check-in. Okay, I know where you are. But one thing I did want to touch on was kind of like playhouses or playgrounds. And one thing that with monitoring the kids that I feel really helped, I was that dad crawling through the tunnels with the kids. Still am. Digging on.
I am the mom sitting on the bench with her phone.
Right.
Don't die, kid. Don't do drugs, okay?
But getting to know the playground is, and knowing that, okay, when my kid calls, I know he's over by the slide. When I call for Leo or Josephine, I know they're over by the swings when they respond. So taking a little bit of time, and with Leo and Josephine, we'd often do this maybe at a playground at night when there was fewer people or no people there. I'd play on the equipment with them. And I do that at Lincoln Children's Museum as well. And getting to know the equipment and playing on it with the kids a couple times really helped me, I feel, monitor them more. Because if Leo didn't answer, maybe he's in the tunnel. Give him a second, kind of thing.
Well, and that's what we say at pools too. We always say, Leo, if I call your name, you better answer me. And if you don't hear me when I'm yelling, then you're too far away. And we give him a time or two because he might be underwater. You know what I mean? Like it might be loud. So it's not like a one chance and you're done. But like if you call 2 or 3 times, you know. So now that's another question. So and I'll say, I know that Greg and I, one thing that we've done is I know that when we went to Disney World, I did a lot of research online. And, you know, people may not know that Disney World has like 30 different resorts on property that you can stay at. So if you're going to go to Disney World, one of the first things you're going to want to decide is what resort you're staying at, what features it has. Does it have a lot of transportation to the park? What kind of transportation? Is it the gondolas? Is it the boats? Is it the buses? Is it the light rail or the monorail, as they call it? So what kind of transportation does your Disney resort have to the parks? What is on that Disney resort? Are there restaurants? What kind of, are they sit down? Are they cafeteria style? So you'll want to do a lot of research on the Disney resorts to make sure that you're getting the resort experience that you need and want. And then what we did was I had someone go over the Magic Kingdom map with me, and I mapped out our day, like from the starting point to where we were going to go. Like I remember thinking like, okay, when you enter the main entrance at Magic Kingdom, you're facing Cinderella's castle. You're at the beginning of Main Street. So you have Main Street straight in front of you and it goes up to Cinderella's castle. We're going to go to the second building on the right, which was like, you know, the Main Street USA Theater. We're going to meet Mickey. Then we're going to kind of cross Main Street USA to City Hall. We're going to get our disability passes so that we can, you know, have certain privileges or, you know, certain accommodations. And then we're going to walk back toward the entrance, and we're going to get on the monorail. And then we're going to get off the monorail at the Peter Pan ride or whatever. So it's like I really had things really mapped out so that we didn't spend a lot of time like, oh my gosh, where's the Little Mermaid ride? Or geez, where's, you know, It's a Small World. Like I had an idea of where everything was, and I'd given a lot of thought to like how I was going to get from, you know, whatever, Dumbo to Pirates of the Caribbean. And so that was something we did. And Priscilla, I know you've spent a lot of time at like Disneyland with your kids. What has helped you?
Yeah, I think kind of what you did about thinking about my day, because we could waste a lot of time going from one end of the park to the other end and asking for directions in between, right? So being able to figure out what section do I want to stay at around what time, and to hit all the rides that are near that. And then we move, you know, to the next. So that was a real good time saver.
And if you feel comfortable, one of the nice things about staying at the Disney resorts is what we did is we got to the park when the gates opened, and we stayed till about maybe 1 or 2. And then we went back to our resort. Kids took a nap. We took a nap. And then we went back to the park for dinner. And then we stayed till closing so we could see the fireworks. And if we had not gone back and taken naps, we probably would have been exhausted and gone back to the hotel around 5 or 6 and missed the most magical parts. So one of the nice things about staying on property is if you make it work, you can go back to the resort and take a nap and then come back again in the evening, which if you have young kids is important.
Well, and that brings up a completely another topic of being prepared with strollers or baby carriers. Because when you go to pack out of that amusement park or zoo at the end of the day like that, Leo was passed out on my back as we were walking out of Disney World. And so just be prepared with a way to, you know, carry your child and lighten your load a little bit.
I think most blind parents, I know that there are many blind parents that love their strollers and pull them well with a cane, but I do not know a blind parent that enjoys pulling a stroller with their cane through an amusement park. Now, Priscilla, you might, but I was going to say maybe I found one tonight. But generally speaking, no matter how much you love your stroller, most parents tend to find baby wearing the better option if you have a very young child at an amusement park, because maneuvering a stroller in and out of huge crowds is like, you know, and in and out of lines, like it's not fun.
Well, I do use my stroller in the amusement park. But I used an umbrella stroller, so it's a little bit smaller, so I can put my cane over the top of the stroller. Smart. And I found that it was effective because I'm a smaller stature. I don't have a big husband to carry my child. And so I could carry the kid when they're falling asleep and get back to my hotel. So I knew that the stroller was one thing I had to use. And plus, I like putting things on the stroller so I didn't have to carry it, you know, in my hands all the time.
I carried that too.
That kind of stuff.
So is your husband not going to watch this and be very offended and be like, "Hello, I'm big and strong"?
Like, how dare you, Priscilla?
What are you saying? Enoch, if you're watching this, you're ripped.
Carry the kid.
Okay, so back to what we were talking about. So we were talking about monitoring kids in different situations. Priscilla and Greg, how do you guys, one question that I think we hear a lot of, like, especially as the summer draws near, how do you monitor your kids around water, whether that's swimming pools, water parks? What would you say is, are some of the techniques or some of the philosophy that you use?
Well, great question. First and foremost, we believed that we wanted to have our children to be able to monitor their own safety in the pool, because frankly, I'm not a very good swimmer, and neither is my husband. So we knew that we would never be able to save anybody. So as soon as our kids could go into swim lessons, they learned how to swim, and they're great swimmers now. Prior to that, I always went in the pool with my kids because I wanted to be able to know where they were at. I would be very close to them. We would play that game Marco Polo, so I knew where they were at. So those are some techniques that we did.
No, I agree 100%. The swim lessons from the beginning make such a huge difference. And not only is it the, getting in the pool with them, like Priscilla's saying, but the better swimmer they are, the safer you know that they are, the more you're comforted by the idea that they know about water safety, water, etiquette, that kind of thing, all the stuff that they're learning in swim lessons. And then at that point, it just kind of goes back to boundaries. Leo, when I call you, respond. If you're too far away, come closer, all that kind of stuff. And letting them know there's consequences if they go beyond those boundaries. But, like Priscilla said, getting in the pool with them, sometimes if you're at a hotel, let's say, or a themed resort, again, there's equipment in those pools, whether it's a little water slide in the shallow end or things like that. So getting to know the equipment that the kids are also playing on helps you be more comfortable with giving them a little bit of space, a little bit of independence in the pool.
Well, and you can be a very strong swimmer yourself. Excuse me. I swam competitively. I was a really great swimmer, but when I was a teenager and I wanted to be a lifeguard and I went to take the test to become a lifeguard, I couldn't pass this one part, and it was lifting the frickin' 10-pound brick out of the water.
On the water.
And yes, like I could get it out of the water, but I was still like completely underwater. And so my point is that even if you're a really great, strong swimmer, when somebody goes into a body of water unintentionally, it's a whole other ballgame. So I just think for your peace of mind, having your kids know how to swim is definitely like a top priority for, water safety.
And one way to get low-cost swim lessons in most places is if you go to your local YMCA, they almost always have some sort of scholarship. It goes by different names, but most local Ys, probably all local Ys, have some sort of scholarship program. And if you approach them and say, look, my spouse and I are both blind, or I'm blind, and it's really important for our kids to know how to swim. If you're on a limited budget, ask them for an application to apply for a scholarship. And in some places, they'll just ask you, what can you pay a month? And if you say, look, I can pay $20 a month, and that's all they'll charge you. So, I mean, YMCAs are often a really good place to find things like swim lessons if you have a really tight budget.
What are your guys' tips for blind parents when traveling with the family?
If you could give people one piece of advice.
Yeah, I'd say when traveling with the family, with Stacy and I, one thing that I think we do pretty well when traveling with our kids is we really know our roles. Kind of going back to the example of, I make sure we get to the gate, and if we're hungry, if we need cheeseburgers, if we need sandwiches on the next flight, Stacy will run and get that while the kids and I are going and getting comfortable and, sitting on the plane, that type of thing. And I think that extends even to when we go to places like Great Wolf Lodge or Disney World, bigger cities like Chicago, and we're visiting family. We kind of work that out in advance, and we've been doing it so long now, we know whose role it is. But, we have an understanding of who's going to do what, whether it's monitoring the kids or going in, down to the front desk to ask for a seat, that kind of thing. Just working out that who does what, and I think that really is what helps us when we travel as a family.
I think for our family, I've learned that being able to travel together and work together well starts with my everyday interactions with my kids. Because when we first started traveling, and it's something simple, taking them to the park, it was very stressful. Or going on the airplane for the very first time, it was very stressful. But the more we practiced at it and revised how we did things, it got better and easier. And so I think just starting small and developing good travel habits, whatever that means for your family, however you monitor your children, keeping it consistent, and then teaching them how to be good travelers as well, so that they can, take care of their own safety and be able to figure out things themselves and see it as a team. I think that really helped us.
Well,
it's true. The more you can teach your kids to be responsible for themselves, whether it's to carry their own carry-on through the airport, even if it's at a very young age, wheeling their own little Mickey Mouse carry-on, the more that they can do for themselves, I mean, the better it is for them, and because they're learning skills, and the better it is for you.
Yeah. And I think talking them through the travel routines, whether it's crossing the street, what are you looking for, what are you listening for, or if they get lost, they might talk to, or even every day I'm on the light rail with my son, I would review with him, what are the stops, where do we get off, what do you do if you miss your stop? So just kind of teaching them along the way.
Well, and that's exactly what I was about to touch on, Priscilla, kind of in line along with what Stacy was saying, is the more you let your kids participate in the traveling, the quicker they're going to pick up on it. Josie just recently has gotten to get out more, and I'm getting a lot more comfortable with her because she didn't have the same experiences that Leo had when we were in Sacramento riding the bus to childcare every day and then me walking to work. I often used to say Leo was street smart because Leo grew up like a pedestrian.
He knew what bus to get in, he knew what stop to get off, and he was like 3.
And that's because we let him participate in the travel. We weren't just putting him in a car seat, taking him from driveway to driveway, and then taking him out of the car. We exposed him early on, whether the municipal travel around town, getting on the Amtrak to go to the San Francisco Bay Area or Southern California, or airports. He was exposed so early and so often that we involved him in the travel, that he picked up on it so well and was, yes, we were the parents. He always knew that. He knew that we were always the adults. But he had some freedom because we knew he understood what we were doing all the time.
Bridgit, what's one piece of advice you would give to blind families?
I would say, I know for me personally, it just kind of goes back to that, do your research, you know, get comfortable with where you're going and know what you want to do when you're there. I know for me personally, if you're kind of that kind of type A planner personality, that helps me reduce some of the stress of traveling, just kind of knowing like once we reach our destination, I have a general idea of kind of where things are at and how things are laid out and kind of how to get from point A to point B instead of kind of getting there and like, oh boy, how do we get around? So for me, that would be my piece of advice.
My piece of advice really is finding the right resources to plan your trips. And I mean, again, if you're really looking to start somewhere small, you know, Great Wolf Lodge is a good place because it's all there in one place. If you're looking at Disney, really review the Disney resorts and figure out where you want to stay. If you're like me and you want to do an all-inclusive resort with your kids, start at applevacations.com, see what's available, see what you can afford. Then go over to Oyster, look at reviews, then go over to TripAdvisor and narrow it down and talk to people who have been there. So to me, it's all about figuring out what you want to do and then finding the information online and then plugging yourself into the communities, because again, all cruise lines are not the same. All cruise ships within a cruise line are not the same. All inclusive resorts are not the same. I mean, they are geared to totally, like you have ones geared toward people who want a spa experience and you have ones that are geared toward people who, you know, want adventure. So, I mean, it's people who don't enjoy cruises or don't enjoy going to resorts. Often it's because they went to one and they didn't do a lot of research. So they didn't get what they wanted and they didn't get what they were expecting. So I would just say doing a lot of research and you know, finding the information you need is really the most important thing.
Well, and I would also just say too, you can, you know, if you haven't traveled much or you're kind of planning your first big family trip, or, you know, maybe you don't quite have the resources for some of these things, a staycation is always really great. Or if you don't necessarily live maybe like in a big city that offers a lot, what's the closest big city to you? Because then you're not going far from home. You can generally keep costs somewhat low, sort of depending on what you're doing, where you're staying. But, you know, then you can sort of get that experience, start to get that experience with your family about being out and traveling and, you know, maybe taking public transportation and just sort of, I don't know, kind of dip your toes in the water, so to speak, on taking a trip, but in your, you know, your own backyard.
That's really good idea. Really good advice. I mean, even if you check yourself in, like if you're really on a budget, but you know that like, look, if we stay home on a staycation, I'm just going to work, you know, or I'm just going to be doing housework or being at my computer or dealing with all my stuff. Like maybe you can check yourself in at like a Red Roof Inn or a Comfort Suite in your town so that you are away from your stuff. You are not working. You are not bogged down by stuff at your house. And just go to all the fun places in your town. Go to your kids' museum. Go to the zoo. Eat out at a restaurant. Do it for a weekend. Check into a hotel Friday night and stay Friday and Saturday night. Doesn't even have to be a grand hotel, just somewhere that's not your house, you know?
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much. We have loved having you and you've given a lot of great advice.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.